happen if you say what you want to say? Look at the words from
Currently not hearing your music, Andrea.
No? No?
We're supposed to welcome all of you with nice music. I don't think it's working.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for coming.
Yes.
We will be waiting just 3 minutes for people to show up. That is it. I promise.
Exactly. We're letting everybody in. So if you haven't already done so, grab pen, paper, coffee, if you want to.
Water, smoothie.
Yes. Very distracting if everybody still comes in when we've already started. So that's why we want to take a couple of minutes to allow everybody to enter. Hi, Mary.
Hi, Mary. Do you know Mary?
Hi, Andrea. Yes, it's good to see you.
Hi, Tom. Hi, Cindy. Hi, let's see.
As soon as we've started here, I have more people come in. Do you want to admit them for us?
Yeah, I got it.
Perfect.
No problem.
Like we were just saying with all the other people that are coming in right now, we were supposed to be welcoming you with some really nice music. That part of the program backfired. But it's also the least important part of the program. So now we're just saying hi to everybody when you come in and allowing everybody to come in. So if you haven't done so, grab a piece of paper and a pen, because this is actually going to be a hands-on workshop where we're going to actually teach you something. And hopefully you'll get away with some really helpful information. So if you then have to look for a pen, that might be a little bit of a shame.
And yeah, I want to see you be brave. That is the song that I've been playing. So I want to see all of you be brave. 4 more people coming in. It is almost 12:03.
Exactly. So we are nearing the time where we're going to start.
Yep. Okay. Welcome to how to write a LinkedIn post that doesn't suck. Just to be very direct about it. No Dracula's here. We're not going to suck. We're going to do a very quick introduction so we don't spend too much of your time doing that. And I'm going to go ahead and share my screen and we'll get started. All right. So how to write a LinkedIn post that doesn't suck. Formulas, creative freedom, and finding your voice. Thank you all for coming. And we're going to do some quick introductions. Barbara, you can start with mine?
Exactly. So Andrea, she specializes in the messy transition between corporate and coaching. And what that means is that she helps her clients to get brave, to bloom big, and to broadcast their brand on LinkedIn. the end result of that is clarity and confidence with the right message to attract the right clients. Besides all of that, she is also a podcast host, a rule breaker, a mediocre runner, and a serious garage sale addict. Andrea's past includes small town roots, 20 years of entrepreneurship, and plenty of hitchhiking in dangerous countries. So, Andrea.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Happy to be here. And my awesome partner, Barbara. Sorry about that, guys. There we go. There she is. Barbara Schouten. She's from the Netherlands, and I can't quite master the accent. She helps people navigate the journey of self-discovery and empowered living, eliminate self-doubt, find fulfillment and joy, and become impactful leaders in their own lives while making a positive difference in the world. She is also a TV show and podcast host, a black sheep rebel girl, an enthusiastic dancer, me too, and a soon-to-be trailblazing digital nomad. Her superpowers include empathy, authenticity, and understanding. And she's a real never giver upper with 45 years of experience and a heart of gold, but don't get on her bad side. All right, let's dive in. Are you ready, Barbara?
I am ready.
Here we go.
So the first part that I want to talk to you about here today is how to find your inspiration, right? Because writing a LinkedIn post that doesn't suck starts with inspiration. What are you going to write about? And there are a couple of things that you could write about. And to find your inspiration for that is to look at the things that are all around you, and to find the extraordinary in the ordinary. These can be everyday moments and interactions that you have with people or with your clients or maybe with a friend that you could transform into a compelling story. If there is a life lessons in there, or if there is an anecdote in there, or maybe just something really funny that happens that really illustrates something that would be valuable to your clients, then take those moments as inspiration. And to find those moments, you need to be aware of your everyday life, and you need to look at everything that's happening in your life sort of through a lens like, would that be a good story? Or it could also be in hindsight, right? That you think, oh, I would like to write about this certain topic. Are there things that come to mind that have happened lately that could be turned into something that makes that a lot more clear? So capture the details of the things that happened in that story, and then find the extraordinary in the mundane, in the seemingly ordinary things in your life. There are so many more things that you experience every day that could be really inspirational for a great LinkedIn post. So that is...
I think, like, just to add that those, sometimes they're not stories, they're moments, right? Life is made up of moments, and they don't even become a story until later, but it's the moment that you saw the snow start to fall, or the moment you saw a sunflower outside, or the moment when, you know, you realize you shouldn't be yelling at your teenager, or whatever that is. But it's, as long as it's human and relatable, people are going to be like, oh yeah, I know what she's talking about.
Exactly. And so there's more inspiration to be found than you initially think.
Exactly. Next slide.
Yes, please.
Oh, sometimes it doesn't like me to do that.
Yeah. So the next place to find inspiration is in your personal story. It could be when you were growing up. It could be when you were a teenager. It could be young adult, adulthood, work experiences, love relationships, friend relationships. So there's this really rich tapestry in the things that you've experienced in your life. And what I see as a pitfall for a lot of people is that a lot of people think, well, this is nothing special, or everybody can do this, or, I don't want to be a down Nelly, or how can I, share something that's been very traumatic? When am I oversharing? There are a lot of things that prevent people from actually looking at their own experiences to find inspiration to write posts. But you don't have to be 100% honest about every single little detail, but you can take the story from, well, I used to think this, and that made me feel like that, and now that I've done this, I am in this type of space, so that it becomes inspirational for people.
I'll just add, I think on that note, because Barbara, I think you're totally right. There's something about deciding how far to take it. And the biggest mistake I see when I'm writing posts for people is that they come to me and they're like, okay, I have this idea for this post. And it's actually 5 posts, right?
Yeah,
because
yes.
people can only take in like one idea at a time. And so if you have this long story, it's probably 5 posts. We just want a moment, like aha moment, something you saw outside. And it really can be quite short. And that's how you escape that problem of like, ugh, she's telling me her life story. Oh my God, she just told me every detail. People don't want to know every detail. They don't have time for every detail. And so I think, keep going. Thank you.
And if you want to know more about this specific topic, then I invite you to come to my YouTube channel, because I just recorded an episode with someone who is really well known in how to turn your story into something that's compelling and authentic without oversharing. So we go into detail on how far you can go and answer most of your questions in that episode. So that will be really valuable to you. But the whole point of this is to look at your experience, to look at the challenges that you've had, or maybe the accomplishments that you've reached. It doesn't have to be in the negative sphere or in the challenging sphere. It can also be passion sphere, or goals that you set for yourself and that you've reached. There is so much inspiration to be found in your everyday life, in the things that you've experienced. So use that power of introspection and reflection when you write your stories, because when you can write about it in a way that it inspires people, then they become really compelling narratives that are a perfect feeding ground for LinkedIn posts or any type of post, actually.
Okay.
Yeah. Next story, please.
It keeps jumping. There we go.
The last inspiration place I want to share with you is to be very authentic. And that's a big part of what my business is about discovering who you really are. So not your experiences, but you, the inside you, your innermost thoughts, your innermost feelings. And yes, that requires you to be vulnerable. And so that's why here it says dive into the art of vulnerability, because you probably have things that make you really unique. I have stories in my head. I have conversations with myself in my head. And sometimes I share these with people and they laugh so loud. And it's like, I have this cabaretier stuck in my head that does these sketches with a version of myself. And I use these stories to create posts because they illustrate the quirkiness of who I am, but it's also really my sense of humor and the way I look at things in my life. And I've been told that this really inspires a lot of people to look at the things that are happening with them in a lighter fashion, instead of just making everything so heavy and down, by just infusing it with a little bit of humor and being able to look at, well, the bright side of it, or the silver lining, or however you want to call it. And that is my special gift. And you have your special gifts. And again, a lot of you think, well, anybody can do this. What I do is not special. I used to think that everybody had stories or talks with themselves like this in their own head. But I discovered when I started talking about it that that's not true. And I'm also getting really great feedback from clients and people that read my stories or that talk with me that say, well, you know, a lot of people talk about authenticity, but you're actually authentic. You walk your walk. You not only talk the talk, you walk the walk. And that's honest. And that then resonates with them because they feel like I am not trying to trick them. I'm not trying to sell them or use things like NLP, neuro linguistic programming, to get them to do what I want. And that then motivates them to want to explore more, to want to find out more. And that encourages them to participate and to reach out. And in the end, that's what you want, right?
Yeah. And I think I'm hearing you say too, that like you have to show that you're funny instead of saying that you're funny. You have to
Yes.
show that you're authentic rather than saying you're authentic, because as soon as you say you're funny, you're not funny, right?
No.
So it's really all about like being, it's like Gandhi said, be the change you want to be see in the world. Like if you're a good team person, okay, great. Like hold space for me in this post, start a conversation where I feel seen and heard, make me feel seen and heard. Don't tell me that you help people do that. So, and you're, Barbara, do you want to go down that list?
Well, what I just wanted to add is that I see a lot of people write stories. Using storytelling as posts is very hot at the moment. But what I'm seeing is that all of these stories follow the same structure. And then I think, oh, you went to what's his name for the storytelling workshop, or you went to that person and you followed their course in it. And then to me, it's also no longer authentic because you're following a set program. So I think I'd like to invite you to really tap into who you are and trust in your unique abilities to word it and to write it instead of trying to mold it into somebody else's mold.
Yep, totally.
No. And so there are questions. That's the next slide. There are questions that you can ask yourself, prompts to discover your narrative.
So, I mean, this is more like, really digging into your own personality, which is part of what I do with my clients, is like, what makes you weird? Maybe you're addicted to your Peloton. Maybe you love Lord of the Rings. Maybe you go to like me, maybe you go to garage sales ridiculously. Maybe you have Starburst hidden in the utensil drawer. Maybe you have Diet Coke hidden in the basement. Whatever it is that makes you weird, that's what people want to know. Because when you talk about what you do, you just blend in with the sea of thousands, literally thousands of other people who are doing the same thing as you do. What makes you different is your personality. What makes you weird, right? And so, and then you can go into like, what's a story from your childhood? Maybe you won the spelling bee when you were 10, or maybe you learned to ride a bike when you were 19 instead of 7. Or, I mean, any of these things is interesting.
Or you had an imaginary friend that you talked with, or came, or maybe you were one of these children that were already very entrepreneurial and you had your lemonade selling booth when you were 5. There are always places where you can find inspiration, or maybe you have some really weird food combination. I know a lot of German people are very good at weird food combinations, like they have cans where you actually have Fanta and cola in the same can. So it's a normal drink there, and they have more of these weird food combinations. So that might be the word thing that people remember you for. That could be your in.
And usually we think, everything is a metaphor. My daughter's told me recently, she's like, Mom, not everything is a metaphor. And I'm like, yes, it is. Actually, it is, because you can actually relate so many things from life onto what you do. So, I mean, what lights you up? Do you like to sing? Do you like to dance? Do you like to hole up and read in your room? Do you like it to be rainy? What's your morning routine? What's your morning ritual? Do you pull cards? Do you not have any morning routine and you sleep until 10? Do you have 6 cups of coffee? Like, these are the things that people relate to. And one good example of this is like, instead of just saying, oh, are you stressed? Do you really, are you upset? Do you have this pressure? Do you have trouble sleeping at night? Think of real life examples that match that better, right? So not are you stressed, but gosh, do you spend 20 minutes in the garage before you come into the house when you get home? That's an example of actual stress that we're feeling.
Yes,
And
or do you postpone going to bed on Sunday evening, because the moment you wake up in the morning, it's Monday and you have to go to work. And by postponing your sleeping in the evening, you're sort of postponing having to go to work.
Right. And, talk about your obsessions, right? What are you super interested in? Because I guarantee there is someone else out there who's also really interested in this and obsessed with it. Finally, like the rogue opinion you're dying to express. I recently got a testimonial from a colleague of mine, Liz, and she's like, wow, she's like, I've been wanting to say this thing forever, but I've been afraid to say it because I'm gonna like piss some people off or people won't like it. But I basically was able to allow herself to give herself permission to open the floodgates and say that opinion. And that's what makes a difference. People are looking for things that are a little bit off of what they've heard because they're so tired of hearing about it. One of the things that I use is like, forget about your purpose. Just give yourself permission to do exactly what you want. Right. And so that rogue opinion coming forward really stands out when you put it into a post.
But I want to add a little thing to that. Exactly, because it's not having a rogue opinion for the sake of a rogue opinion. It's not having a rogue opinion for the sake of standing out, of being different. No, have the rogue opinion because it's actually your opinion. Because you are actually just very different from everybody else, and the way you look at things is actually very different from everybody else. And instead of hiding that or denying that, own it and come out with it. So an authentic
courage, right? Like your courage helps other people be courageous. They're like, oh, she's talking about that. I can talk about that too. Like I was afraid to do that, but she's confidently doing it. So I think I can do it. Now, next, we're going to get into the formula, which is, I know what probably a lot of you have been waiting for. And so we're going to go to this. Okay. So this is the formula for a good post. So our formula with Fangs and Finesse, right? A little bit of Dracula talk there. So the hook, right? So the hook is something that makes me look and wonder, oh, what's she talking about, right? It's something a little different and it helps me self-identify and say, oh, she's talking to me. What it also does is helps, it says to the person you're not talking to, oh, she's not talking to me, and they go away, right? So in this way, you're attracting not just clients and audience members, but the right ones. So examples of this would be one, storytelling. It was dark that night. We've been walking for hours, right? Or, gosh, I never thought I'd faint on a plane, but this one time I did. That's really true, actually. And, maybe you say, dear, calling all CX professionals, I've got something for you, right? That's more of a client identification. Or if you're considering a coaching investment, this post is for you. Read this first, right? Or if you're on the cusp of a divorce, listen up. So we identify those people with the hook. The third way to do this is a rogue opinion, right? And what I have said recently is like, I think Beyonce sucks because everybody loves Beyonce. And that's just a little bit different, right? So just coming out with that rogue opinion or the self-client identification or the storytelling at the top starts us off, right? And that is literally can be one line, 1 to 2 lines.
Yes, and ideally it will be 1 or 2 lines. It's enough to just grab attention. It's enough to have people think, oh, interesting, I want to know more. That's the goal.
And then the visual is really important. It's what most people miss when they start to do a story or when they start to tell something, right? So this is the beginning of your storytelling. And as we mentioned, it's easy to go overboard and you don't need to. We just want like a short story. And when I say a short story, I'm talking like, give me the setting, 3 lines. So here's the mistake that I see a lot of people make is they say, well, I was out running errands the other day. And that doesn't give me any visual, right? What I want to know is I was at the car wash in my dad's red Trans Am when it hit me, right? What do you got there? You immediately see the red Trans Am, right? It belongs to my 70-year-old dad, right? So we want some color. We want a visual. I'll give you a couple of examples. Not I was in my garden. Instead, I had just picked a few lemons to put in my Thanksgiving Day lemon pie, right? Not I saw this little boy. Instead, Juan has green sneakers a snotty nose, and coal black hair. He was begging outside of my car, right? Whatever that is, now you've got a picture and the people have a picture too. And they're like, oh, I just had something come through, a visceral response. Now it could be their sight, it could be their smell, it could be their touch. You know, I was making apple pie the other day, and at the room, you know, the aroma filled the house. And immediately I've got more of an evoking emotion.
You want to really tantalize the senses. You want them to be involved, either by being able to see it in front of them, or to know what it smells like, or to know what it tastes like. You want to have them be engaged with whatever you're going to be sharing.
Right. And then we've got the value, right? And that's what you have to get to quick. The value is, why am I reading this post? What are you telling me that's so interesting? I want 3 to 5 points. And these could be a variety of things, whatever it is that you specialize in. They're 1 to 2 lines. We are not getting in deep. We are not getting into the how, or the model that you use, or the special formula that you have. People don't care about that yet. We're still building trust, right? I don't want to know how you do it, because it stresses me out and it sounds hard, right? I want to know, what are 3 quick tips that I can use today at my 3 o'clock meeting after I read this. And so examples would be 3 signs that you're codependent, 4 concrete ideas to help people collaborate, 5 critical steps you should take before you sell your business. Here's how to use AI efficiently, even if you hate it, right? I want something immediately that I'm like, yes. And even if I leave and I never talk to you again, I'm like, wow, Barbara, she's awesome. I just got this great thing from her, right? So that is the key. That's what we're building up to with the formula. So we give them the value, then we go into an inquiry, because we want them to comment. And so we're going to ask them something about our content. Like, when did you experience this? What was your first job? What's the best boss? Who's the best boss you ever had, right? What's your biggest complaint about meetings? What's the hardest part of being an entrepreneur, right?
Exactly.
People do like to share their story, and that definitely encourages them to comment. And it's a quick question at the end. And some people won't, but the very idea of you asking them makes them think, oh, like, she's asking my opinion, right? It feels good.
Yes,
so
you want them to engage with you. You want them to be a part of it, not to just read it. That's also part of what the visual is, right? That's also having them be engaged with what you're doing. The same thing as with the inquiry. You want them to do something again, to think about something, to be engaged in what you're writing.
And all of this should be conversational. We'll cover this at a slide toward the end, but conversational is your friend, right? That is the only way to do it. As soon as I see a paragraph that's 6 lines long, I'm like, meh, I'm not interested. Like, unless I'm reading a white paper, or I'm about to purchase enterprise software for $100,000, sure. Like, then you want something deep and 5 pages long, but we don't want paragraphs. We want one-liners. We want conversations. We want questions. We want comments, and we want true self-awareness as you walk through this. So finally, the boilerplate. And it's funny, this boilerplate word is like, it's old. It's like from my PR days 20 years ago, but it's really the thing at the end of every press release that says, oh, you know, Apple is a company who blah, blah, blah. This is your chance, without selling, to say, hi, like, you know, I'm Cindy and here's what I do. This resonates. Let's talk. Right. And you want that same boilerplate at the end of every single post, so that I see the consistency. When I did my 20 days to an effing fabulous profile on LinkedIn, at the end of every one, I had a boilerplate, and then I had meow. It's totally random. I am not a cat. It's just something that kind of gave me a little zing, right? And so they started seeing that, and they started expecting that. And that's how you create the boilerplate. So I'm going to show you a few examples here. And we still have people joining, so just bear with me. Oh, it always does that. So we've got, you can see this is for a financial planner that I worked with. She's got the hook, and it says, listen up, women. Here's a story of some serious financial misogyny circa 2008. So that's her hook. I'm like, oh, I'm in, right? I'm a feminist, I'm in. Then I've got the visual story. I was 5 years out of college, not much savings, working for the state of Wisconsin, still driving a black Toyota Corolla, no dependents, nothing to lose, right? You can see her, right? She's young. She's like, you know, she's like, not much going on, no kids, no mortgage. She was still figuring out who she was. She said, but I realized I need to make decisions about my pension. So a friend referred me to this financial advisor. He looked at my bank statement and said, I suppose your plan is to marry rich. Oh my gosh. I remember when she told me this story, I was like, oh, right. So she talks about how she feels. She's given a visual and I can feel her frustration, right? I can feel it because she really told me, and it's one-liners. It's like a conversation, like a book. I'm reading through it. So then this was part of what helped her decide. It's like, wow, like maybe I should be a financial advisor, right? And as a result, and because she is now a financial advisor, she came up with what the value is. Here's what to look for in a financial advisor. Listens with presence, full acceptance, grounded in the present, appreciates vulnerability, educates at Goldilocks speed, right? She has 1 to 2 lines for each of these value points. Then she's got a question. And then what's the worst financial advice you ever got, right? I could definitely chime in on that, right? And then she has her boilerplate at the end, right? So I'm a financial advisor with calm energy and determination to change my professional stereotype. And the only thing I push is peace of mind. Right? So this is an example of a post that got a lot of likes, a lot of comments, and it's because it's engaging and it follows this script. So show you one more example. How are we doing for time here? And this is one for a self coach. So her hook is confession. I'm a self-care hype girl. Yep. And I hear you. I can see how this could be construed as a little too enthusiastic, too cheerleaderish. So you see how there she sort of addressed the stereotype of the self-care hype girl and she slashed it, right? She's like, yeah, I get it. You know, too cheery isn't good, but self-care is so damn important, right? And I'm not talking about hydration masks, wine, and manicures, right? We can all, you know, as women, at least we can relate to that. I don't want to talk for everybody, but like we get it, right? That is sort of the self-care stereotype. So then she goes into the visual. I'm talking about the pom. What's the pom? I'm half of a pom-pom. You heard me. It stands for protection of me, right? So I can see the pom-poms now, and I can see her face because her picture's up there. And again, she's like, it's a progression of understanding as she's sharing the visuals. Then we've got her value. Her poms are protection of my time, protection of my environment, and protection of my body. So I read through and I think, wow, okay, this is different. It's not just the average self-care Instagram-y crap, right? It's like something I can that I can actually use. Now these are a little longer. If you do 3, you can make them a little longer. If you do 5, you've got to be 1 to 2 lines. And then she asks some questions like, what if you could become obsessed with this? What if you could become passionate about guarding your own peace? What if disappointing others was less important than disappointing yourself? And then, you know, she's got a little, she slips in the need help and puts her Calendly link in there. And then she's got her boilerplate. I'm a soul searching girl living in a Scottsdale world. I used to hide my true feelings, overperform, and push down my needs. Not anymore. And she does that same thing at the end of every post. So these are just a couple examples. You can make a post for any profession, no matter what you're doing. But these are posts that work. And now we're going to put it out to questions and maybe put someone in the hot seat. I'm going to stop sharing, take a look at the chat. Yeah, I encourage you to ask some questions.
Carrie is asking, isn't that way too long of a post?
Okay, great question. Yeah. So no, it's not, because if it's written well, people will read it. That's the first point. Second point is that because it's spaced out, it is easy to read. And of course, you don't have to do that long of a post, right? I think the post limit now, it's hard to keep up. I think it's 3,000 characters. But yeah, you can do one that's 1,000. Great. It doesn't have to be super long, but it can be if it's written well. That's really the trick.
Yes, exactly. It's if you engage your reader, if they feel spoken to, then they will read your entire post. So it's not about how long or how short it should be. It's about finding the words that speak to your ideal client.
Yeah. And I see that Jason said, okay, I'm going to write about Sour Patch Kids. I would love that because I love Sour Patch Kids. And it's like totally a guilty pleasure of mine. And I'm like, I should not be eating these sugar-filled crap, but I do because sometimes I like that. What other questions you guys have? Oh, what do you suggest for using graphics and emojis? So let's both weigh in on this, Barbara. So there's different schools of thought on this. Definitely a couple of emojis is great. And when I say emoji, I don't mean like always like smiley face or heart face. It can be blue diamonds or red dots or little suns or whatever. I would pick 2 and that's it. And then I would repeat them. What they do most of all is they break up the copy. And that's really helpful because sometimes there is a lot of copy. Even if it's broken up, I need a breather, right? And it's nice to do like a line of stars to break up for transitions. As far as images go, so the funny thing is that people love images. And I am kind of sad to say that like my highest impression post ever was a picture of Anthony Kiedis, the lead singer of the Red Hot Chili Peppers, because, you know, people love, because he's really hot. Right? So like, and that's what gets people to click. It's just true. Right. So you absolutely need an image. Don't even think about posting without an image. But I give different advice to my clients depending on who they are. I will say that lately I've really come to the conclusion that the more you put your face up there in the most casual way you can. I mean, I have done things on my porch, at the gym, at the yoga studio, in my yard, with my hair up, with my hair down, with makeup, without makeup. The more you do that, the more people are like, oh, she's a real person like me. And then they see your face with your content and they make that association.
Yes.
So there's kind of, Barbara, what do you have on that?
I think it really depends on who you are. I think the graphics and the emojis that you use should complement who you are, should fit who you are. So if you are a very cheery, rainbow, unicorn, sunshine type of person, then you can use cheery, rainbow, unicorn, sunshine type of emotions in your post, because that is your voice. That is who you are. That is how you speak. That is what people will going to be experiencing when they work with you. So you can let that show in your post. Same with images, but for you to find out what works best for you, I think it's a trial and error type of thing. Just try to put something in and then see how people respond to it. See how they respond to your content, but don't put things in for the sake of putting things in. Make sure that it either complements you and your brand or your style, or what you are writing about, that it actually adds something extra to what you're writing about.
Yeah, got it. And then I see a question here about keeping up with the algorithm. Yeah, it's a great point. I don't have any answers for you there. Like it's a challenge to keep up with the algorithm. And to be honest, I really encourage my clients to just F the algorithm. And I don't want to spend my life on social media. I don't want you to either. I feel like if you create a community and you batch post, you don't have to post every day. But yeah, it is a challenge. I also see a question. Is there a secret? Sorry, do you have something else on the algorithm?
No, I was agreeing with it. I think, let go of all the algorithms, because if you keep worrying about all the algorithms and adhering to all of the rules, you're going to drive yourself crazy. So don't do it in order to comply to the rules. Be a rebel, be a rule breaker, do your own thing, and write from your heart, so that you trust that you will reach the right people with your message when it comes from the heart, even if the algorithms change.
Yep, agreed. So Tom asked, is there a secret formula between balancing personal content versus more subject matter insights? So
exactly.
What I really try to do there is ideally you want both, right? You want both in one. So you want to weave them together, a little bit of personal content and how that relates to the professional content. Now, if you do just a professional insights, throw some personality in there, even if there's no story about you, right? Like throw some personality about what you did today, or what kind of person you are, or the TV show you saw last night, or like if you weave that in, then it becomes softer. And if it's just a personal post, it's not going to work. Like personal content has to have a complimentary business note, I'd say.
I think it also really depends on what type of business you have. If you have a bigger business with a lot of employees and you sell a product, then your personal stories might not matter that much unless they pertain to the product that you're selling. But if you are a coach or a healer or someone whose brand is you, you are your brand, you are your business, then again, you want to be authentic. You want to infuse it with personal stories, but you also want to show that you're knowledgeable. And so you want to grab people's attention by sharing things that they think, oh, she knows what she's talking about. Oh, she's gone through similar things. So I think she might be able to help me with this, while at the same time also showing that you have the knowledge that you would need to make good on your word. You're not just someone who experienced it. You're someone who got out of it and are now teaching other people to do their thing with it.
Yeah, exactly. And I have another question here from Lori. She says, I joined this meeting because I'm a writer and I always love learning stuff. But as a minion in a large company, I don't really have an opportunity to advertise myself and my talents. The most I do is share company posts. So this is a great question from another side, is like, can you give an example of how this might translate? And I think absolutely. So it's totally, and if you have a more specific question, type it in there, Lori, but I think you're asking like, this stuff can apply to to company posts for sure. It's just that you probably want to put like a little less personal in there, right? But you definitely can say, wow, here's what I've experienced in my office today. Here's how our company does work from home. Maybe you throw in something about your dogs and your kids. Or you talk about your team as a whole and say like, my team loves to go to pizza, or like my team always gets on with our coffee in the morning, right? And so personalize it in that team way. And then, we haven't even touched on this yet, is then you're calling out those people and then they're looking at the post and all of their followers. So great thing is like, hey, it was great to see Sherry today. She had, she gave me some Starbucks, and then I went and saw Pete and he gave me this good idea for my presentation. And so then you're including everyone and they're all getting to be seen and heard and understood. Hopefully that helps, Lori. I don't know if you had anything else.
Yes, exactly. And Mary is also sharing, integrity is the best thing for algorithms. Interest in a post trumps it all. And that's indeed what it comes down to. And Laurie, I don't know if you maybe also write for other people's businesses, but then it would be useful to adapt their stories or their tone of voice in your writing style, so that it's not about you personal, but that you sort of wear their human suit. I don't know if you've ever seen the film with Will Smith, where they put on the Edgar suit. So then you put on the Edgar suit and you crawl into the skin of the person that you're writing for, and then use their knowledge and their experiences to write posts. That could also be a way to apply this.
Yeah. And some other questions is a lot of people ask, and I see a comment about this, how do I not brag too much? Like, how do I make sure I'm not overdoing it, and becoming too egotistical? And there's a couple of secrets, I think, to this. One is that you just have to remember that it really like how your vibration and your energy and how you talk is much more important actually than even what you say. Because two people can say the same thing and I'm like, ugh, I don't want to talk to him anymore. He just talks about himself and please get me away from him. And how do I escape this guy? Right. He's like, hi, I'm so awesome. Did I tell you how awesome I am? Enough about me. What do you think of me? Right. It's so annoying. But the difference is that the other person who is not egotistical is sharing his knowledge and then asking a question. Mm-hmm. And he's sharing it with self-awareness and humility. He's asking a question and then in parentheses, he's like, is that a stupid question? Or, like, I was just curious, he's actually talking in having conversation in that moment. And so it's definitely, that's part of my specialty as a coach and as a brand messaging person, is I take people and it's like, no, you don't have to be egotistical in your post. Just because you're talking about yourself doesn't mean that you're full of yourself, right?
No.
And at the same time, you do have to remember that the audience needs to be the hero of the story, right? The minute it's too much about you, then people do lose interest.
Yes,
So
when
that,
you're only showing, oh, look at this big yacht that I bought, or this fancy car that I'm driving, or this big house that I'm living in. We've all seen posts come by like that, and I'm done with shit like that. To me, I think, oh yeah, blah blah blah, more of how awesome you are. Go away. I don't like that, but I like posts where I can see the person behind the business, where I can see who you actually are. And people indeed, they buy based on how you make them feel. I don't believe in competition. Now, we could be doing exactly the same thing, but people will resonate with me because they like my energy, and other people will think, oh, she's weird. I don't want to work with her. And that's perfectly fine, right? I know I am not for everybody, and that is perfectly fine. But the more I am who I actually am, the more I will draw the people to me that resonate with me on a very deep level, which will then turn into the best clients I've ever worked with. Instead of trying to be more general, more genetic, more appealable to a broader audience, and then ending up with clients that you think, well, if I had known this in advance, I don't think I would have taken you on as a client, because they're mismatched.
Right. I also get the question a lot about the company versus the human. And I'm working with a new client, Tom, right now, and I know I'm going to help him balance that out. And he's like, well, my company's important. And I'm like, but you're important, right? And one of the biggest mistakes people make is talking too much about their company, because unless you are Apple or Nike, people are not going to become a raving fan of your company. They don't care about your company. They don't know what your logo looks like, and they don't care what your logo looks like. They care about you. They become a raving fan of you. And when that happens, then they think, oh, Tom's got it. Oh, yeah, totally trust him. It's going to be fine. Right. And so make sure, no matter what, whether you work for a massive company or you work for yourself as a one-person company, you have to bring your face, your personality, and your humanness forward. That's when people start to say, oh, like, I can relate to that. He's like me.
Exactly. Cindy is sharing, I write LinkedIn profiles for clients and stress their about section needs to be about them, not a reiteration of their website.
Yay. Yay, Cindy. That is so true, right? Like, and most people's even about section on their website is just a reiteration of all the services they do, instead of being like, no, like, where did you come from? What languages do you speak? How many kids do you have? And I'll give you a little tip about the bio and the personal stuff, is that please do not say that you like to spend time with your family in the outdoors. There is nothing wrong with spending time with your family in the outdoors. That is the most generic thing I've ever read, and I've read it thousands of times, right? So I want to know, like, for example, a great example of this is like, hi, my name's Eric, and I really like IPAs. I'm a mediocre guitar player, and my first priority is my son. Okay, bingo. Hi, I'm Andrea. I'm a mediocre runner, a dedicated mama, and bad vegetable eater. Bingo, right? Like, I want to know the interesting things about you, right? Like something that's just like, oh, I would love to have lunch with the people that create the New York Times games, and I've been to Burning Man 5 times, right?
It's a bit like a dating profile, right? If you go on a
It
dating
really is.
site and you see a profile that says, well, I like reading and long walks on the beach.
I know,
Who doesn't?
fond of toast. Yeah. Like, and I do help people write dating profiles sometimes. I totally have done that before, because it's quite similar, right? It's hard sometimes to distill down. That's what I do for my clients, like distill down everything that is you and pick out the interesting bits, right? Whatever is not like everyone else is the interesting part. If you like to wear handkerchiefs in your hair, talk about that. Right? I mean, and or you like to have like weird, what is that thing behind your in your background, Craig Ingram? I'm very curious about that. Right? Like that's got my curiosity piqued, right? Sylvia's got some great black glasses on, right? Super stylish, right? Like just think about what, what makes you you. All right, we are getting to the end of our time here. Last chance for questions. Do you have any more questions, Barbara?
Well, what we thought we could maybe do in these last couple of minutes is take about 5 minutes to put someone in the hot seat. Is there someone who would like to create a LinkedIn post with us here today? Sylvia?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. I'll
Well, what I was thinking, I actually, before this, had started writing a draft, and now in listening to you, it is like the worst post. Like it sucks in every way you've outlined. So I wonder if there's a way to just do a hot seat of help me come up with a hook for it.
Sure. That's
I mean, the whole thing needs, now that I've heard you, the whole thing needs to be edited, but in the time we have, maybe just doing the hook part.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think without even seeing it, I could just say we'll try it for 3 different hooks, right? So the first one is self-identification. Like who's the person you want to talk to? Like, I want to know exactly who they are, what they look like, how old they are, describe them to me.
Okay, so she's a 58-year-old burnt out attorney, and she'd love to quit what she's doing, but when she asks herself the question, what does she want? She has no idea.
Okay. So can you put that, dear 58-year-old burnt out attorney who really wants to quit? I dare you to put that.
Okay, even if I guess, yeah, I'd have to, I mean, attorneys aren't my market, but I was just throwing out like, it could be,
Sure. But the more specific you get, the better, right? There are probably 100 attorneys that could use you, Sylvia. Like, so why not? It doesn't have to be, why not do that? You don't need 500 people before you retire. You just need like 150.
Exactly, but also don't be afraid to be specific. You can try it out, right? You can pinpoint a specific type of lawyer and really direct the post towards them, and then next week you can do a different type of lawyer. Nobody says you need to stick to one specific thing, but the more specific you are in your specific post, the more that specific person will feel spoken to.
Totally.
Okay, I love that.
One more idea, and then we'll go to Catherine, who's also got her hand raised. The other idea would be like, I quit. Does anyone else want to quit? Like, just put that at the top, right? Because there are people out there who are like, yes, for God's sake, I want to quit, right? The other idea is like, I had a dream last night. I was lost. I was walking for hours. I don't know where I am. I'm in a horrible hallway. Does anyone else feel this way? Like,
oh my God, you're good. Okay, thank you. That gets me on a different track.
Tricia also had a really good suggestion. She says, how about the jury is in, you're fried and ready for a change.
Love it. Love it.
I love that.
Yeah. Yeah. The verdict is
Well
in.
done, Tricia.
Catherine, can you unmute, or Barbara, can you unmute Catherine?
Let me get Catherine up.
Yep. Yeah, I could totally unmute myself, but I was taking notes.
Sorry.
So because I suddenly, just this morning, I audio recorded new insight into my purpose, my personal purpose and professional purpose and so forth. And so it turned into an 8-minute recording, which I then sent through a machine transcription. And now I'm looking at it thinking, this is probably more than one post. It could be an article maybe, but maybe have a post that drives people to it. And while you were talking about Sylvia's hook, I had a thought, do you wish you felt more loved at work?
Love it. That's a great hook because most people feel that way, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And again, the best inspiration is also experiences of your own, right? If I look at my target audience, they are struggling with many of the things that I have struggled with prior. So there's a wealth of information I can tap into when I look at what I was thinking in situations like that, or what I would have wished in situations like that. And you can all use inspiration like that to write your hook.
Yeah, absolutely.
my hook was originally going to be, and perhaps it would be for a different one. It was going to be something like, what superpower do you wish you had? Because that's where it all started, was, you know,
Okay.
my kids asking me, what superpower do you wish you had, Mom? And mine was completely different from what you'd expect.
So, and I think that's perfect. And then what I would say after that is like, mine is flying. My daughter wants to make things disappear. My son, like, and those are in lines, right? So people can relate to that, whether they have kids or whether they watch superhero movies, right? That's definitely an easy topic that brings a lot of people in.
Yes.
Okay.
Love it.
I think, anybody else want to be in the hot seat? We got like, you know, maybe two, we could do one more.
Definitely one more, maybe even two. So I don't know if there's somebody else who would love to have some feedback or
Yeah, don't be afraid. We're all in this mess together. Thoughts about reposts, Brenda asked. Yeah. And I think, so I think you're talking about like just posting something now and then in 6 months posting it again.
No, I'm talking about, you know, the reshare, like when you go underneath somebody's posts
Oh,
and
yeah.
I'm just, you know, like I know there's like a penalty that exists with it, but sometimes I was asked to an event today to be on the event. So they said, can you reshare our event? So I can't get around it. I'm just wondering if you do anything with those, anything any differently, or what your thoughts are on those.
I just, my rule of thumb is great. You can always do it. It's never going to get you nearly as much attention as an original post. Just know that. But it's great to post it. The thing you have to do is say something in the beginning. Don't just repost it. Say something and say, I love the way that they've highlighted young girls for the women movement, or
Exactly.
whatever it is that you're reposting about. Like, say something in a few lines, not in a 6-line thing, but in like that are spaced out about what you're posting. Or if it's like a video, tell them, hey, at minute 427, they have this great message.
Exactly.
So just
Repost it with your thoughts. And you brought up an excellent other point, Andrea, when it comes to writing your post. Don't group your text close together, because writing on a screen is very different from writing in a book or writing in a pamphlet. So make sure that you space out your lines wide enough, and that you use short sentences and not too long of a paragraph, because that makes it a lot easier for people to read your entire post, instead of feeling overwhelmed by the sheer amount of letters that are assaulting their senses, right?
Yeah, and I recently, just one quick thing, I just was with a client recently that brought something up to me that I'd never had a client bring up before. And he's like, well, shouldn't this be like Instagram, like everything running together really tight and just like, you know, 6 lines with like 4 hashtags? And I'm like, no, like it's not Instagram. Like, we actually have more space to deal with. Let people breathe. Don't be sprinkling hashtags all throughout your stuff. They can go at the bottom. We didn't cover that. It's kind of another whole other topic. Few hashtags at the bottom makes sense. Don't worry too much about hashtags. Is really my advice. But yeah, definitely just space things out. So we're just about the end. Thank you so much for coming. Really appreciate all the participation.
Yes, and the love.
Yeah, all the love. There will be a replay that we will send, a live recording that we'll send out if
Yes.
that's helpful, along with the slide deck. If you want to meet with me or Barbara, just DM us the word Dracula, and then we'll be on it to set up a, you know, one-on-one with you guys.
Exactly.
Yeah. Anything else, Barbara? Did I forget anything?
No, I'm very happy that you guys loved it, because we really intended to do something different. We hate all of these workshops where they promise you all of these things, and then when you go on, they only talk about themselves and the results they had for their clients, and you're not actually learning something. So we wanted to be doing something different. And if I look at how you're responding and how you're participating, then dare I say we succeeded. So thank you for being here and for participating, for showing up. Again, indeed, we will be showing you the replay. We will be sending you the slides from today's presentation. Our websites will be on there. We both offer free coffee chats to explore what working together could look like. So if you feel like you want to at least talk to us or explore what that might look like, don't be afraid to hit us up. Dracula, of course, is a word keeping in line with posts that don't suck. But if you feel like I want to say sunshine, then that's fine by me too.
I want to see you be brave. Thanks, guys.
Yes, thank you so much. Have a really great rest of your day and hopefully see you in another